All right, guys, Gemini, back with another video. In this video today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be discussing Bret Hart. From what I'm reading here online, apparently Bret Hart has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. It's really bad timing too, because his brother Smith was just diagnosed with prostate cancer as well. So now there is two Hart brothers who have come down with prostate cancer. It's a very sad day, for me. I grew up with Bret the Hitman Hart. I was probably the biggest Hitman fan there was. I was a huge Bret Hart fan. I was. I idolized Bret the Hitman Hart when I was a kid. This guy to me was the best wrestler Bret Hart could do no wrong in my eyes. I used to just be such a fan of the Hitman, in all aspects. Everything the Hitman would do in the ring, I would mark out for. Prostate cancer. It's pretty serious. They say that you're supposed to have your prostates checked by age 40, which I'm actually not far away from. So I'm 36. So somewhere in the next 4 years, I'm going to have to get my prostates checked as well. It's kind of a shock. It's kind of like a slap in the face for Bret the Hitman Hart. Can you imagine what it must be like for him to have to wake up in the morning and find out he has prostate cancer? I feel terrible for his family, his wife, his kids. They must be going through, a lot right now. And Wrestling Jesus just joined the call. WJ, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was just, before we got here, I was just talking about how I idolized Bret the Hitman Hart as a kid. I watched all his matches. I studied everything he did. Sad day for the Hart family. What's your thoughts on Bret Hart being diagnosed with prostate cancer?
Well, it's very sad,
Yeah, obviously there has to be a connection there. Being in Canada, he must have been, he has to be a hero up in Canada. I'm guessing.
Over here, he was like a hero there, yeah, but he's having surgery, so he might get out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I hope so. And I was saying before you got here, you have to have your prostate checked by 40. You're supposed to do that because prostate cancer is very serious. So within the next 10 years, you got to get your prostate checked. I got to get my prostate checked. That shit hits at home a little bit, having to do that by 40. And who knows if Bret had that done by 40, being on the road so much, traveling, 200-300 days a year. Maybe he didn't have his prostate checked, but hopefully the Hitman will pull through. Did you hear that his brother, Smith Hart, was just diagnosed with prostate cancer too?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So two Hart brothers have taken a fall. Not like the Harts haven't been through enough, with the death of Owen and the death of the Bulldog and Jim the Anvil Neidhart's drug addiction problem. And the Harts have been through a lot. So the last thing I think the wrestling fans and that family needs to do is lose another brother.
We got some good doctors here and stuff, and hopefully they'll catch the problem before it spreads or whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing about cancer is I've been told if you catch it early, you can potentially live through it, but once it spreads through the rest of your body, you could be in a lot of trouble. And I'm sure that Bret Hart, is going to go see the best doctors in the world. He's a multi-millionaire, so he shouldn't have a problem getting the best doctors in the world to help him. It's nothing new. This isn't a new form of cancer. Millions and millions of men deal with prostate cancer every year, so hopefully Bret will pull through. I feel terrible for him. I do. I feel terrible for Smith Hart. I feel terrible for that whole family. Somehow I can't help but think that the Hart family has a bit of a curse
A
behind
curse.
them. Yeah, a lot like the Von Erich family. Back in the 80s in Texas, the Von Erich families had a black curse hanging over them. Do you think the Hart family is a bit cursed with the screw job and the Owen and everything?
I don't know if I believe in curses there, but in the Bible it talks about curses. I don't know if but they've definitely had some bad luck, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, hopefully, he can figure it out. I mean, somebody asked me the other day, kind of being the DVD guy, somebody asked me if I thought that we were going to see another Owen Hart DVD. And I told them, you're not going to see another Owen Hart DVD. There's no way Martha is going to let that happen. So, there's a lot of problems. And, the way that the British Bulldog, he hurt his back in the ring and then he winds up getting hooked on morphine. And now Smith Hart, it's just a rotten situation. So we hope they can figure it out. I'm trying to get some more.
The Harts are legendary in Canada. Stu Hart, like in Calgary and stuff. They have like statues of them and stuff. So.
Have you been to?
No, I've never been there, but like you were saying earlier, they do have legend status over here.
And that spreads through all the provinces.
Not as much nowadays, because Bret hasn't wrestled in 10 years, or whatever, however long it's been there, but longer than 10 years, but back in the day when he was a star and the champ, he was in all the newspapers all the time. You know what I mean?
So you pretty much growing up, you read about Bret the Hitman Hart in all the local newspapers all the time.
Well, he would appear in it often in newspapers. They'd talk about him and stuff, and Stu Hart too. You hear stories about him. And
now, what about other famous Canadian wrestlers like the Rougeaus? Did you hear much press?
They're more popular in Quebec there.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. Is like and that's why it bothers me that wrestlers like the Rougeaus, don't get more mainstream press. They were one of the best tag teams of all time to me.
But yeah, like you said earlier, all the big matches with Bret, it was definitely lots of emotions in those matches,
Well,
Bret Hart made us believe, you know what I'm saying? When you'd watch his match, you'd get into it, and it's like it was real during his match when you were watching it,
It did look real, and that was the thing about Bret the Hitman Hart. It was like, for instance, I could take you to WrestleMania 12. At the end of that match, Shawn Michaels won the world title from him, and if you go back and you watch that match, everybody thinks that Bret was really pissed at Shawn Michaels for losing the strap, even though they had that all planned out. So to your point, they always made it look – Bret Hart always had a very realistic way in the ring, like how he would take that one move where he would go smashing into the side of the turnbuckle chest first. He always made that shit look like it was the most painful move in wrestling.
And Bret, it was, like he'd start limping a little bit, and then it progressively his leg would get messed up, you know what I mean? It was done like better,
So you're speaking of like WrestleMania 10 when he wrestled Owen at the beginning of the show, and then he was selling the limp when he went out to main event the last match with Yokozuna. that the famous limp he would do.
Yeah, that was realistic. It made you it, like, as I was young too, you know what I mean? But like as a fan, that would like really get me into it. His matches, it's you started, you just went into it and forgot that it was like
So
how do they call, yeah, exactly, you just get into it, and you would root for him and stuff.
now let me ask you this. Um, when Bret, is it fair for people to say that Bret Hart was a low drawing champion, even though he was the first champion after Hulk Hogan left? Is it fair for people to say that Bret Hart didn't draw money in the WWE because he was Hulk Hogan's replacement in '92? Is that a fair assessment, or do you think?
I know they sold a lot of those sunglasses back in the day there. All the
I
kids,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
all the kids in the arena had those Bret Hart sunglasses, and they would, when you would come out to the ring and give the sunglasses, that was like a good way to, for publicity, to sell the merchandise. Like the arenas, they weren't as filled, I guess, as the Hogan days, but they lost all of the big talent in one shot. Of course, they're going to lose ratings.
Well, the thing on Brett is he came in right in 1992, right when WWF was starting to have its steroid scandal, and at that time the WWF programming got really bad between '92 and '93, and people always, even Ric Flair has been very vocal on saying that Bret Hart didn't draw any money. But if you think about it, there probably wasn't a wrestler in 1992 who could have replaced Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan at that point had been the WWF champion for almost 10 years without being defeated, except maybe one or two times. So I don't feel that there was another wrestler who could have stepped into Hulk Hogan's shoes at the time and replaced Hogan. Bret was the guy who stepped in there. Him and Shawn Michaels, they replaced Hulk, but you can't expect Bret Hart to draw money like Hulk did. What Hulk did was a phenomenal thing. He was a phenom, and Hulk got big in pop culture. Bret never got big in pop culture. So how was Bret Hart, a wrestler who didn't have near the charisma of Hulk Hogan? How was he expected to replace, Hulk Hogan, who was oozing with charisma? So people give Bret Hart that unfair assessment. To me, there was nobody who could have replaced Hulk.
He had big matches at Mania. That stuff drew money.
Yeah, I mean, he main evented. I mean, he sold out Madison Square Garden with Yokozuna. He sold out a lot of arenas. He
with
did
Michaels and.
Yeah, I mean, WrestleMania 12, even though it was '96 and WWF was at a down period of the time. And to defend Bret, he was probably in one of the most famous matches of all time when it went down with Shawn Michaels in the Survivor Series in '97, the Screwjob. That's probably still one of the most talked about matches today. I mean, he won world titles. He wrestled all over the world. He made a lot of money. He became the first wrestler, in the WWF to get the big bucks. He was the first one to come down, with the huge contract with the other wrestlers. I think that the other wrestlers in the locker room resented Bret because of how much he got paid. I think that created a lot of jealousy with the other wrestlers in the locker room. And to Bret's defense, if you look at the same thing over in WCW in 1992, Ric Flair left the WWF in 91, 92, and WCW said, okay, well, we're going to give Sting the title. We're going to give Sting he's going to be the number one guy. Sting didn't draw anything in 91 and 92 because he was expected to replace Ric Flair, because Ric Flair had confrontation with the owner of WCW at the time, Jim Herd. And so Sting came in, and he didn't draw anything in WCW. And so people can say what they want about Bret not drawing money and not drawing fans, but it was the same thing in Sting in WCW. He couldn't have replaced Ric Flair. The wrestling fans were different. When Bret Hart was the champion, the wrestling fans were much different. There was no, it wasn't really high tech back then. Fans weren't as sophisticated on the internet yet, and they weren't as savvy as they were. So different time in wrestling back in the day when Bret Hart was the champion. I thought he was a damn good champion. And I thought if it wasn't for Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, I feel that the WWF wouldn't have survived those dark days. Do you feel that Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels helped the WWF survive when business was really lean in the early 90s?
For sure, yeah.
And if it wasn't for a guy like Bret Hart, Vince McMahon might not have a job today, because even in the beginning of the Attitude Era, when it was Austin and Bret the Hitman Hart, that was some legendary stuff. What are your memories on the Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart feud from 96 and 97?
Well, Bret Hart definitely helped to put Steve Austin over. I remember that,
Big time. And they weren't just like average matches. Like WrestleMania 13 in 1997 was in Chicago, and the WWF was in a really dark period at the time. But if you go back or you ask anyone about WrestleMania 13 in Chicago, they're going to talk about the submission match with Austin and Bret the Hitman Hart. They're not going to talk about Sid and The Undertaker main eventing for the world title. They're always going to speak on the submission match with Austin and Bret, where they pulled the double switch. Austin turned babyface and Bret Hart turned heel, and they pulled it off masterfully. Did you enjoy Bret Hart more as a heel or a babyface?
Well, I guess he did a lot more as a babyface there, but I enjoyed the heel stuff as well,
Wasn't it interesting back in the day how they would boo Bret Hart in the United States?
And cheer in Canada, yeah. I like the figure four and the ropes. Remember that stuff with the chair shots? And
yeah, he would lock his opponent with his legs wrapped around the pole in the side, and then he would slap the figure four on him. And watching that was just gruesome. And if you remember, they did a pay-per-view in 1997, July the 6th, 1997, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, at the Saddle Dome. They did a pay-per-view, and it was called Canadian Stampede. And the main event of that was the Hart brothers, and they wrestled, Legion of Doom, Ken Shamrock, Goldust, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, if you remember that crowd in Canada that day, they were 100% behind the Hart Foundation at Canadian Stampede. Even though it might have not drawn big numbers on pay-per-view, still the reception that Bret Hart got and his brothers got, Pillman, Austin, the Bulldog, the reception they got was phenomenal. People, you guys watching this and stuff, recommendation from me, go back and watch In Your House from July of 97, and just to hear the roof shaking on the Calgary Saddle Dome. I've always wanted to visit Calgary just to go up and pay homage to Bret Hart country. I think that would be, I know that Andre Corbeil, he has been to the Hart House. That is something that I would love to do. Have you ever any thoughts of visiting, Calgary and going and seeing the Hart House, or is it like a long ways from you, or?
It's pretty far from me. Yeah, I've never really thought about that.
All right, perfect. We got Kyle in here. Hey, what's going on, Kyle?
Not much.
Hey,
Oh my
hey, Kyle,
God.
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're perfect.
Kyle, I was just discussing some Bret Hart memories and some Bret Hart stories. I wanted to get your opinion on Bret Hart being diagnosed with prostate cancer.
I mean, like, when I first heard about it, it was like, I was pretty shocked. I was like, what the fuck? I didn't expect this. I mean, yeah, the guy had a stroke back in like 2000. I mean, you'd probably know this better than I would, but I mean, yeah, I didn't expect this to happen. I mean, I'm not ready for him to die. I mean, we've lost so many, fucking legends over the years. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this, Kyle. When did you start watching pro wrestling? When did you start getting into it hot and heavy?
When did I start getting into it? I think it was like around the time Bret Hart turned heel, during that whole thing with Austin. But like, well, actually, to be honest with you, I mean that's the first glimpse of what I saw, but that had already passed by the time I like truly started to, watch it.
What are your Kyle? What's your best Bret Hart memories and matches?
All right, let me think. I think my best one would have to be the submission match at WrestleMania 13.
Yeah,
That I will
yes.
always treasure. His match against the British Bulldog at SummerSlam. That Iron Man match with Shawn Michaels. Just basically like every match he's in, the guy's gonna deliver. I mean, he brought something to the table that people try to outdo today, but they just can't.
Now let me ask you this, Kyle. Did you hear about Bret Hart's brothers, Smith Hart, also being diagnosed with prostate cancer and bone cancer as well?
Oh no, I didn't hear anything about that. Why is he?
Yes, and so we were speaking of a possible curse with the Owen Hart and Bret Hart family. You know, the Hart family, a possible curse. Do you think that the Hart family has a curse on it with all the bad stuff that's happened to them?
I mean, let's think here. I mean, you had Owen Hart with that horrible accident when he accidentally released the quick release on his harness, and then you had I don't know, didn't another Hart guy die before Owen Hart? I think it was like Jack Hart or something. I don't know.
There was a death in the family right at Survivor Series '89, but Bret Hart, being the professional he is, um, he still wrestled that night. And at the '89 Survivor, or maybe it was the '90s Survivor Series, sometime around there. It was either '89 or '90.
I think it
But
was 90. Might
but
have been.
Bret Hart went up to Teddy DiBiase. Obviously, Teddy DiBiase was the guy who was going to go over in the match, but Bret went up to Teddy and said, "Hey, I want to do something special tonight." So it came down to Bret and Teddy, and they were the last two guys. And Teddy, made Bret look really, really good in the match, and so that was big of uh, Teddy DiBiase. I'm a huge Bret the Hitman Hart fan. I always have been. Um, Dark Horse is pissed off. He doesn't want to come in here. If anybody
Oh
else
my.
wants to come and discuss, whatever Bret Hart memories or matches, feel free to click the link on my Facebook, Vincent Flair. It's up there for you guys. Just wanted to get your opinions and thoughts on the legend. He is a legend. He's not just a legend in Canada, but Bret Hart was a legend in India, Germany, um, Japan. I mean, Bret Hart wrestled all over the world. He wrestled. He wasn't just a wrestler who would go in the ring and half-ass it for 5 minutes. Kyle, let me ask you this: do you feel that Bret Hart wrestled in a realistic style, like his matches actually looked real when he was in the ring?
But most of them, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, you got like here are some comparisons I'm gonna make. With Daniel Bryan, you can't really say that he's wrestled like many realistic matches in the WWE. I mean, like ever since he became like a main eventer for them, they've really kind of watered his moveset down and just limited it to kicks. But with Bret Hart, it's like he actually did more technical things. He actually shined in matches. And that's what made people respect him. I mean, yeah, during a time when the company wasn't at its highest, he still made it work.
All right, now let me. We got the Trap Queen in here. Trap Queen, how far do you go back with pro wrestling? What year did you start watching?
I can't remember what year. Like, for me, it was kind of like as like a toddler, I would watch like old tapes of like stuff from like the 80s and the 90s because my dad was born in the 80s, but like started watching like on the show. I'd say like the early 2000s. I can't remember.
What are your best memories on Bret Hart match-wise?
Well,
What Bret Hart matches?
I don't remember him all that much, I know he was like a fantastic wrestler. Like I've only seen like the tapes from when I was little, so I can't really tell you.
Yeah, and for me, I started watching pro wrestling in 1987, so Bret Hart was one of the main stars that I would see on the tapes in 1987. Do you feel like, Trap Queen, are you familiar with the Von Erichs? Have you watched the Von Erichs wrestle out of WCCW at all?
Yeah, I'm familiar with them.
Now, let me ask you this. A lot of people say that the Von Erich family has a curse looming over their family with all the suicides and deaths in their family. Do you feel like the Hart family, with all the bad stuff that has happened to them, potentially has a curse looming over the Hart family?
Yeah, I definitely think there's pretty much like a little bit of a curse in every wrestling family. Even the ones that people don't notice, I feel like there's a curse within all of them.
Now let me go round table with this one, and we'll start with Kyle. Kyle, Bret the Hitman Hart, his run in WCW. Do you feel like that WCW just didn't have a clue what to do with Bret the Hitman Hart?
Yeah, I kind of feel like they should have did more with him. Like I like the only two things I can actually remember, him being in WCW for are his match against Ric Flair and his match against Goldberg. That's pretty much all I can remember. Everything else is kind of just like a blur to me.
Okay, now he wrestled Ric Flair at Sold Out 98, and it was fantastic. They had tremendous chemistry in the ring. And he wrestled Goldberg at Starrcade 99, and that's the match when he got kicked in the head and the concussion came. Wrestling Jesus, what do you remember about Bret Hart in WCW?
That Goldberg spear thing, is that what you mentioned, Kyle, just now, or?
Yeah, I brought that up when he fought
Okay.
Goldberg at Starrcade.
That's pretty much my only memory of that there Goldberg spear with the metal plate and 1, 2, 3. Didn't he win the U.S. title too?
He was a multi-time champion in WCW. I had an opportunity to watch him and Sting wrestle at Halloween Havoc 98 in Las Vegas for the United States title. And Bret was heel, Sting was a babyface. It was tremendous stuff. And what you're speaking of right now, it was a Nitro taping. It was in March of 99. It was in Toronto. And Bret the Hitman Hart and Goldberg should have had a huge feud, but WCW didn't have a clue what to do with the talent of Bret the Hitman Hart. What should have happened in WCW when Bret Hart came in '97, that should have been a big enough star for WCW to eliminate the WWF and win the ratings war. Trap, do you remember anything about Bret Hart in WCW?
Personally, no, because like my father personally, like when I would watch wrestling with him, he hated WCW for some reason. So I know he was like a multi-time champ, like you said. Other than that, I really don't know.
Yeah, it's not a memorable time to be a WCW fan in the years. I'd say
What
99
year
through
was it? Like, not, yeah, I was gonna say like 98, 99.
Well, first off, here's a huge mistake that WCW did. Bret Hart debuted in WCW in November of '97, and they didn't give him the WCW World title until November of '99. So they waited over 2 years for Bret Hart to be the WCW champion. It was really stupid. Like, okay, so they started off Bret Hart weird in WCW. First gig that Bret had in WCW was at Starrcade '97. It was the world title match between Hulk Hogan and Sting, and the fans, the fans that night, they had Bret as a special guest referee in that match. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, that's Bret the Hitman Hart, and he's refereeing for Hogan and Sting. Why is he not competing in this match? You can tell. And I'll ask you guys this. Kyle, do you think Bret ever had his heart fully set in WCW, or do you think he was just a WWF guy at heart?
I think he was just a WWF guy at heart.
WJ, do you think that Bret ever fully had his heart in WCW?
Apparently not. That's what he said, and Bischoff and everybody else, they say that, yeah. It came from him directly, so I guess so, yeah.
Trap, have you seen any of the recent stuff that Bret Hart has said where he seems like he's been like so bitter, and he called the Royal Rumble 2016 the worst Royal Rumble of all time, and
Yeah,
he
I
seems really
heard about
bitter.
that.
What do you think Bret Hart is so bitter towards the wrestling business about everything he went through, like the screw job and everything?
Well, that could be the case, you know. He is getting older, and as you get older, you do get more bitter. But, I don't know, I feel like he's definitely burnt from some of the stuff that happened.
He took the screw job hard. He
Yeah.
took it hard.
Definitely
It took him,
did.
you
Spitting
know,
in the face of McMahon. Yeah. Punching him, giving him a black guy in his office. Yep, definitely.
Brett doesn't like Triple H either. He said a couple times that he's not a great wrestler, stuff like this. So maybe that's why he didn't like the Rumble, you know.
you guys have to admit that. Well, let's go roundtable with this one since we're on subject to Bret Hart here and everything. There's only so much you can say about him being diagnosed with prostate cancer. Kyle, Montreal Screwjob, real or shoot? Or shoot or fake? Do you think the screw job was real?
I mean, like there's been like many stories about it. Like some people think it's real, some people think it's fake. But like here's the thing: if it took like this long for Brett to make up with McMahon and Michaels, then it had to be real. Because like I know there's like obviously everybody knows there was like serious big blood between Brett and Sean, and I guess like I don't know. I'm trying to think what to say here.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're fine.
I think it was real.
WJ, Montreal Screwjob, real or was that planned backstage?
I have to assume that it's like real or whatever, but there's a big chance it could be fake, you know.
And then Trap, what do you know about the Montreal Screwjob? Memories or thoughts, real
Well,
or?
as for real or fake, I'm gonna definitely. Well, in my opinion, I feel like it could be like staged partially, but like let's just say Bret Hart didn't know it was gonna be staged. But I'm gonna have to say it's real, or at least partially real.
Yeah, I agree. I think the whole thing was legit. And we got Robbie in here. Robbie, what's going on, man?
How's it going, Jim?
Good. We were just discussing Bret Hart. You know, I think personally, I think Bret Hart is on everyone's mind today. You know, he was a childhood hero to basically all of us. What are your thoughts on him getting diagnosed with prostate cancer?
It's sad, man, because earlier, so like basically how I found out was earlier today. I was at work. I was checking Facebook, and then SFJ, my local newspaper in San Francisco, reported that Brett announced on Instagram he had prostate cancer. And when I saw the headline, I was like, that's sad, man, because like it was just sad because cancer is no joke. And someone in the chat mentioned Brett having a stroke, so it's just sad that he's suffering from cancer. And I just want to send my get well wishes to him and keep him in the family in my prayers and my thoughts, because Brett is one of the all-time greats. And it's just sad that the legends we're losing legends left and right, and I would hate for the worst to happen to Bret Hart.
Right. Well, last year, we lost Dusty Rhodes and Rowdy Piper in the same calendar year. Vern Gagne, as well. A lot of the younger generation, of wrestling fans today didn't see a lot of Bret Hart, when he was in his prime. But I'll tell you guys, Bret Hart back in the day in the early '90s, he was a hero to me. I mean, I watched every single Bret Hart match, whether it was on Saturday on WWF Superstars, whether it was on Primetime Wrestling. I mean, everything Bret Hart did to me was awesome. This one hits home a little bit. I'm sure he'll be okay. Like I said, I'm sure he has money to buy the best doctors in the world and feel a lot better. Robbie, what are your memories of Bret Hart matches? What's your favorite Bret Hart match?
Hands down, Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect, SummerSlam '91. Just a great example of technical wrestling at its best, man. I mean, Perfect working that match with an injured back. Bret establishing himself as a single star, a future star. Just a great wrestling match I can go back and watch again and again and just, enjoy it and just appreciate great technical wrestling. I actually have a story. I actually met Bret almost 2 years ago in Newark, California. It was a real cool experience.
He was a nice guy in person.
He was very chill. He was very calm, but he did thank me for the comment I gave him, because when I went up to him, I shook his hand. I said it was an honor to meet him, and then I told him that the matches he had with Bulldog and Owen and Mr. Perfect were prime examples of great technical wrestling. And he thanked me, and I just said, "Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming out." So, I overall had a nice experience meeting Bret. It was just great to meet, a legend that I grew up watching, and he was very cool. He was very calm. He was a nice guy for the most part. So I'm happy to say that I know Bret, and it's just sad, like I said, that he got diagnosed with prostate cancer. My prayers and my thoughts go out to him and his family. If you want to talk about some of my favorite Bret Hart memories, I love the rant he did after losing the steel cage match, where he just went off on.
Yes.
He shoved on his ass and he saying, frustrated isn't the goddamn word for it. This is bullshit. I love that, because I remember watching it as a kid and thinking, whoa, like he just said bullshit on live TV,
Yeah. Well, you got to remember, Robbie, that was right in the beginning of 1997, and the WWF was getting their ass whooped by WCW, and they were desperate. And Bret Hart was one of the guys who he turned on the WWF and went over to WCW, man. And you think his WCW run was a fail?
His WCW run, I only remember 3 things about it, or 4 actually. He was the guest referee for Sting versus Hogan.
Yes.
He wrestled Sting at Halloween Havoc. He knocked out Goldberg with that metal plate, and Goldberg gave him the concussion with the super kick at Starrcade '99. That's all I remember. And Bret also winning the WCW championship. I don't remember anything else about his WCW run. Whereas his WWF run, I remember the great feuds he had, the great matches, the titles he won, the feud with Austin was incredible, the feud with Shawn. Bret had such a great WWF run. His WCW run, it seems like nothing, really. And this is no disrespect to Bret, it's just WCW didn't know what to do with him,
All right, now we've been discussing Bret Hart for a while. I think we bored everyone to sleep. Now we can have some fun and talk about some other shit. Kyle, what happened last night with Cranky Kyle?
He's still mad because I fired him from working at Bamberger's. That's why.
I quit. You didn't fire me. I quit. Remember?
Yeah, you quit because you couldn't be Employee of the Month.
No, that wasn't true. I hated stocking socks. It was too fucking easy. I needed a harder job.
So here's your shot, Kyle. You're on the Gemini 888 channel, so I'm going to give you a shout out here. Everybody who's watching this, and please go subscribe to Kyle. He's a young man trying to grow his YouTube channel, so please check him out. Kyle, what's the link to your channel, brother?
All right, I'll send the link to it. Let me just get to it.
Shadow Kyle 451.
I changed my name to just Kyle Brachetto because everybody knows my real name.
Yeah.
BRICHETTO.
Yeah.
Check out Robbie on here too. Robbie, I want you to link your channel because Robbie's a hardcore pro wrestling fan. He's the trivia master. So Robbie, send your info out here so people can get some hardcore pro wrestling on your channel because I watch.
Definitely. Well, I'm not the trivia champion anymore, Jem. I lost to Lundrick, and I know you wanted to give me a beating on YWC trivia.
It's true.
No, I thank you for letting the fans, your friends get to join you in this chat about Bret Hart. I know I've never met. I just want to say hi to Trap Queen, Wrestling Jesus, and Kyle. I've never met you guys before. I want to myself. Yeah.
Seemed like a pretty cool dude. I'll check you out.
Definitely.
Robbie's a good dude. I met him at WrestleCon this year, and he marked out for Freaking yeah, he marked out for Stevie Breach, and he marked out for assault and battery. I was standing there, and he didn't know who I was. I was like, damn, this kid.
I'm so sorry, dude, because I remember seeing you, and then in the back of my mind, I'm like, why does this guy look so familiar to me? And then I watched one of Steve's videos, like, dude, that was freaking Gemini, man. And I'm like, how did I not recognize him?
Yeah, I got spotted a few times. So Trap, plug your channel so we can get some people over, because you make good parody videos and stuff. Trap, plug your channel here on YouTube.
Alright, so subscribe to me on YouTube. My name is Trap Queen. I know there's like a million other Trap Queens on YouTube, but
She's
you'll
the
be able to
white
find
one.
me.
The white
Yeah.
trap queen.
Yeah, this is the only trap queen I'll associate myself with.
And then
Because the other ones are black girls, and you don't like black girls.
WJ doesn't get an introduction because he screwed me the other day in the championship of the Ka title. And he's got the
Because Kyle slept with management. That's what happened.
So you guys, though, I mean, seriously, if you are looking for some entertainment and you're getting sick of watching Raw reviews, go watch Wrestling Jesus' Ka show on YouTube.
Not wrestling, retarded.
We got
Yeah,
a big match next week there. Kyle and Tony against Gemini and the Horse. Big tag match coming up.
Hey,
And
Jim,
Yeah.
I just want to say thanks for answering my questions during your Q&A on, I think it was Saturday. And, dude, keep doing what makes you happy, man. I love your channel, whether you're doing wrestling, whether you're doing DVD reviews or figure reviews. I love your channel, man. So just keep doing what you do. And, yeah, man, I'm proud to support your channel. So just do what makes you happy, man. Do what
A lot of people are really pissed off at me right now for doing different things, but you know, everybody's like, "Oh God," I'm not really here to talk about myself, but people are like, "Oh God, Jim's not going to do the DVDs anymore." Blah blah blah. Yes, just before we got here on air, I recorded a video about the Royal Rumble, so you guys are still going to get your DVD fix fee or whatever. So I'm not going anywhere. So.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, man, you know, I love watching the videos on your channel, so whether you're doing something new or you're sticking to your thing, I always tune in, so just keep doing your thing, man. That's all. I just give you all the support I can.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna stick around. I'm not going anywhere, but I will say
Yeah, I like
that,
your channel because you talk about DVDs that like I've never even heard of.
yeah, that's
Jim,
just
like I said, I want to travel all the way there and just break into your house and steal all your DVDs.
well, I do got some doubles. I guess I can send you some doubles in the mail if you really are trying to get into the. I'd like to see you do DVDs. I'd like to see a lot more people do, you know, what I do on YouTube, but it's just a limited fan base.
It's like you go to the flea market and you see Jem with this big old treasure trove of DVDs. Like, how much for this one? How much for that one?
Right, I actually scored a Hulkamania tape the other day, dude. And it was freaking awesome.
Dude, I like how you got the Royal Rumble on VHS. Cause I used to rent those pay-per-views back in the day, man, on VHS.
Everybody did, yeah. But yeah, we'll. I gotta get going doing some shit. But I want to thank you guys for coming on, and I will see you guys down the road somewhere. Okay, thanks for coming in.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Peace.